1313. You can also hit me up on X. I am at Gingerly Tweets. Sean Payton speaking currently. How rude of him to be counter-programming to this show. But we'll see what Sean Payton has to say about a variety of topics coming up over the course of the program. But let's start, since he's in the middle of talking, let's start with hoops. Plus, it was just, something significant happened last night, I think. So let's start there, shall we? I couldn't last night, and I don't know if you were on social media as well and dealing with the same thing. Like, I couldn't get through my social media feed without hitting like dozens, maybe hundreds. Maybe I'm underselling it. Maybe it's hundreds of pictures of the Northern Lights. And look, I get it. They're beautiful. I love looking at them too. But did you watch Nikola Jokic play basketball against the Sacramento Kings last night? That is the most beautiful thing that Coloradans could have seen last night. He dropped 35 points in the 122-108 win, missing 3 shots. He missed 3 shots, 4 if you count one of the 3 free throws that he took. That's right, 3 free throws for Nikola Jokic. 33 of his 35 points last night were from the field. And one of the field goals that he missed was a desperation heave at the end of the shot clock. It was breathtaking. A breathtaking example of ethical behavior, of efficiency. It was an ethical masterclass from Nikola Jokic last night. And I don't know if you've been paying attention, it's kind of who he's been all the month of November. I know we're 12 days into it, but the entire month of November so far, this has been Nikola Jokic. Every game above 30 points, except for one, it was a 26-point performance against Golden State. He's shooting 73% from the field in the month of November. And the 26-point performance against Golden State, he did it in 28 minutes. 26 points in 28 minutes, shooting over 70% from the field. And right there in lies the cause of this stretch of basketball from the world's best player. We are seeing a start to this season that is even ridiculous by Nikola Jokic standards. He is averaging 26, 13, and 11 on 67% shooting, playing the fewest minutes that he has since the championship season. 3 minutes less per game than last year, which you add up 10 games in, that's a half an hour of game time that he's not on the floor. Yet the Nuggets keep winning because of, let's not forget Jamal Murray and all of this. Jamal Murray, he's right. But it's because of this bench that co-GMs Ben Tenzer and John Wallace have put together. The non-Jokic minutes are costing the Nuggets 1 point per 100 possessions. If they're winning a game by 2 when he goes out, which they rarely are because they're crushing teams right now, but let's just say for math's sake, they're winning by 2 when he goes out. He comes back in, they're winning by 1. The bench, without Jamal Murray, because we know they stagger Jamal Murray with the bench, just the bench unit, 4th best in the NBA right now in net rating. This is going even better than anyone could have imagined. And it's made their best player better. Why? Because he's not getting dragged back out there because a lead evaporates in a matter of moments. He's fresher. He's rested. Here's Nikola Jokic last night after the game singing the praises of his bench unit. Do you hear the excitement in Nikola Jokic's voice? He is positively giddy over this development. You know why? Because he gets to rest. Even though the other day he said, quote as Thomas Shelby from Peaky Blinders, there's no rest for me in this world. That's Jokic doing his Jokic thing. He gets rest. Maybe it doesn't seem like much because it's only about 3 minutes less, but added up over time, the guy has gotten more rest this season than he has since the title run. And this is the lesser talked about, lesser conceived. And I'll own up to this. I wasn't talking a lot about this. The focus was these non-Jokic minutes, right? With the bench unit that the Nuggets have currently, it was, they're not going to immediately squander a lead. But the next step in that is when it is time for Nikola Jokic to come back on the floor, he's fresher. He's actually rested and ready to go. If he continues at this pace, and let's just say he plays 70 games like he did last year, he'll actually end up playing 200 fewer minutes, essentially 4 games worth of minutes that Nikola Jokic will not play. This is the Nikola Jokic version of load management. This is actually what load management in the NBA should be. It shouldn't be about guys missing games, Steph Curry. It should be about guys playing fewer minutes. But what's the impediment to that? The players themselves. The players don't want to play fewer minutes because if they play fewer minutes, their averages suffer. So they don't want to play. If they're going to be load managed, you just want to miss the entirety of the game because your numbers will suffer theoretically if you just simply play fewer minutes. But we are talking about Nikola Jokic here. It doesn't have the same effect on Nikola Jokic. In fact, it's had the opposite effect. He is putting up better numbers playing fewer minutes. And it's not just the bench unit that is helping, because there are times where Nikola Jokic is on the floor with Tim Hardaway. He's on the floor with Bruce Brown, still waiting on pins and needles for the first time that Jokic and Valanciunas are out there at the same time. David Adelman keeps teasing us about it. I want to see the double big lineup. It's like the 3 defensemen lineup that I always enjoyed the Avs putting out there. I want to see the double big lineup. But it's not just that Nikola Jokic is sometimes playing with Bruce Brown or Tim Hardaway, and that means the production doesn't go down. But it's, again, Jamal Murray being right. It's Aaron Gordon somehow getting better at this stage in his career. Jamal Murray last night, 23 points. He was incredibly efficient. But you add it all up, this is the most help in every shape and form you can think of. This is the most help Nikola Jokic has had, at least since the title run. But I go back to what Jamal Murray said when he was asked about this. It's actually the bubble team. It's actually the bubble team that this team compares closer to. Because David Adelman, like Michael Malone in the bubble, can go to the bench and not worry that either the lead will evaporate or even he can keep some of them on the floor when Jokic comes back out there and continuing adding to their lead. Because here's another aspect of what we're seeing from Nikola Jokic. The Nuggets net rating with him on the floor is higher than it has been in years. And that's obviously a testament to Nikola Jokic and everything I just talked about with him actually getting rest in games. But it's also a testament to the supporting cast. Jamal Murray looks like the player that we saw during the title run. Aaron Gordon is taking what he did last year, which was a career year from 3, and adding to it. Christian Brown has maxed out on who he can be as a player. And then you bring back Bruce Brown. And then you add Tim Hardaway, who is a perfect fit with Nikola Jokic, much like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was in terms of three-point shooting. This is the most help that Jokic has gotten. Title run, bubble, you pick. And he is playing better because of it, in addition to everybody else playing at a high level. And what is this all building to? If the Denver Nuggets can continue this, obviously health is a determining factor. And in-season progression or regression is a thing. So we have to, follow this, day by day. But what is this all adding up to? Nikola Jokic is going to be the healthiest and freshest and most well-rested he has been since the title run. And what happened during that title run? Nikola Jokic put together a playoff that we had never seen before in terms of the numbers he put up. That's what we're building towards. So as you identify potential reasons why the Denver Nuggets might be able to dethrone Oklahoma City, throw a better version of Nikola Jokic, something that we didn't really think was possible, and we keep saying that year in and year out. He can't get any better. Well, the numbers say he's better. He's more efficient, and he's averaging a triple-double. Is that going to hold up through 82 games? That's what we're all here to find out. But if Nikola Jokic is an even better version of himself than he was last year in that 7-game series, that's another thing that could ultimately tip the scales in the Nuggets' favor in a 7-game Western Conference final against Oklahoma City, or whenever that series does end up happening. This is what it looks like to help your best player in today's NBA. This is how you have to do it. It's not that Laker, Miami Heat mentality of let's go get another star. You can't do that. But you also can't sit idly by. That's what we found out over the last couple of years. You just can't sit idly by and say, well, we have the best player in the world. Because with the talent level that keeps coming into the NBA, if you're not going forward, if you're just standing still in terms of your roster, you're actually falling behind. And that's what's happened with the Nuggets the last couple of years. We saw OKC jump them. We saw Houston jump them. If the Nuggets hadn't made the moves that they made, look at what's going on down in San Antonio. As I've pointed out, San Antonio is going to be this year's version of the Houston Rockets, where everyone thinks, well, they'll be better, certainly, but they're going to be demonstrably better. They're going to be top 4, and Shea Serrano and I discussed this a little bit last week when he was on the show, and we banter back and forth on whether it looks like a top 3 seed, top 4 seed. But look at the way San Antonio's playing. That would be another team that could jump the Denver Nuggets had they not done what they did this offseason. This is what it looks like with the second apron and all of these things that are in place in the NBA. But even with that being said, because we've had these conversations before, I don't know about you, 719-24-7-1313, it looks better. It looks better than I could have possibly thought it would look. Take your thoughts on that. And coming up next, Broncos and Chiefs on Sunday. Why their latest injury might be the one that they cannot sustain. That's next here on Extra Sports 1300. This Sunday, multi-platinum progressive rock group Trans-Siberian Orchestra returns to the Broadmoor World Arena with its winter tour Ghosts of Christmas Eve. 2 spectacular shows on Sunday, November 16th. Let me make sure that I have the right one. This is, and I think I was very intentional in this because of what is going on earlier on November 16th. Certain football game of great consequence. I have 4 tickets to the 7:30 show with Trans-Siberian Orchestra that I would love to give you if you are the 13th texter to text TSO and your name to 719-247-1313. Trans-Siberian Orchestra, great way to kick off the holiday season, in my humble opinion. So fire away on the text line, and we'll get a winner here shortly. There aren't 2 players on this entire Broncos roster that they can afford to be without less for Sunday's game against the Chiefs than Pat Surtain and J.K. Dobbins. Surtain either covering Travis Kelce or Rashee Rice. You're worried about one, right? If Surtain plays, one of those guys is not covered by Pat Surtain. But you can roll coverages. You could do a lot of different things. Now with Surtain being out, you got to worry about both Kelce and Rice. Can't fully take away either guy. But J.K. Dobbins is vitally important, I think, to the Broncos' success on Sunday as well, because he takes both quarterbacks out of the game. And here's what I mean by that. Obviously, he takes Patrick Mahomes out of the game a little bit because he keeps him on the sideline, limits the possessions that he will get. Because against this Broncos defense, Mahomes isn't going to score every time down the field. I mean, there was a time where that might be true. It's not true. It's give some credit to the Broncos defense, even without Pat Surtain. Chiefs won't score every time down the field. So you limit those possessions by controlling the clock with the run game led by J.K. Dobbins. But he also takes Bo Nix out of the game, as in Bo Nix the thrower. Although that's just in theory because Bo Nix, even with J.K. Dobbins, still leads the NFL in pass attempts. So you have to talk to Sean Payton about that one. But in theory, J.K. Dobbins can take both throwers out of the football game or limit them. I don't think it's a case where you don't want Bo Nix to throw the ball ever. Mahomes, you don't want him to throw the ball ever. But you want less Bo Nix throwing the football, right? And J.K. Dobbins, an effective run game, allows you to do that. Any other injury, and we've already seen this with some guys, but any other injury, you can talk yourself into, okay, not ideal, but like Benito. You don't love being without Nick Benito. He's your best pass rusher. You'd want to have him against Kansas City, certainly. But you don't have him. You have Cooper, you have Ellis, you have Tillman, you have John Franklin Myers. You have strength in numbers. Plus a very good defensive coordinator that can dial up blitzes and mask his pass rush and everything like that. So it doesn't completely tip the scales the other way, even if you're missing Nick Benito. Cortland Sutton, his targets are going down each of the last 4 weeks anyway, which we need to have a conversation about that. Bo Nix being out. What did you read the Gazette? Jared Stidham's name's being brought up with a healthy Bo Nix as an alternative. So in some people's minds, not having Bo Nix for Sunday would not be the worst thing in the world. But being without Pat Surtain and J.K. Dobbins, I don't know if there are other players that I would rank above those two in terms of their importance for Sunday's game. And you have to put health on the list of reasons. It's not the top reason why the Broncos are 8-2 right now, but it's one of. Only 3 teams in the NFL have fewer players on injured reserve this year than Denver has put on there. Rams, Jags, and Raiders. Look at where the Rams are. Look at where the Jags are. And the Raiders, it wouldn't matter if they were fully healthy. And the guys that they have missed, Marvin Mims, Dre Greenlaw, Ben Powers, they've dealt with very well, to their credit. Even without Surtain, you can't say that it's been a huge detriment to the Denver Broncos, but this game is different, and you knew that because we talked about it as soon as Surtain was injured. Okay, the next couple of weeks, Dallas, Houston, all right, that is what it is. Maybe Dallas, you were a little bit worried if you're a Broncos fan. But this was the game, right? This was the game. Okay, that's fine. Is he out this week? Whatever. Is he out for the Chiefs game? And now that reality is here that he will be. And this whole Broncos season has been building towards Sunday's game, right? Everything that they have made themselves about is about beating that football team. So not having J.K. Dobbins and Pat Surtain greatly impacts them. Those are missing players that could tip the scales. If you think this is a coin flip game, those injuries could make the difference. Now the secondary without Surtain going to be tested more than they have at any point. Maybe you could argue the Dallas game again. And now I think more importantly, I think what I'm getting at is that J.K. Dobbins is somehow, just because of depth and what side of the football they play on, I think J.K. Dobbins is a more detrimental loss for the Broncos in this game than even Pat Surtain is. But now you're faced with two choices. Bo Nix throws the ball more, which I don't think anyone is in favor of. Or you lean heavily on R.J. Harvey, which R.J. Harvey's been fine. R.J. Harvey's been very good in the role that he's had, getting half the touches approximately of J.K. Dobbins. And when you talk about actually running the football, which is what the Broncos need to do on Sunday, it's more like a 3-1 margin. I think it's like 150 something carries for J.K. Dobbins and 50 for R.J. Harvey. So you like R.J. Harvey, you just like him in this role. And now if J.K. Dobbins is out, he's gonna be the guy. Because I don't know that you can bank on Tyler Bidet and Jaleel McLaughlin. Like, forget that whole thing is over with. And look, maybe R.J. Harvey is capable of this. You don't know until you're put in that position. But is that something you want to do for this game? The timing of J.K. Dobbins' injury is not ideal because you don't get, like, you would at least like to see R.J. Harvey with an increased workload against the Raiders. Now you might see it against the Chiefs, the biggest game of the year. And a game, like, just to flip it the other way. The Chiefs need this game. Okay, so any thought that Sunday could be Kansas City overlooking Denver, like, let me get out in front of that nonsense. The Chiefs desperately need this game. They lose, they're 3 games back. They're not winning the AFC West. Even with that game on Christmas, they're not winning the AFC West if they don't win on Sunday. So they're getting the full might and attention of the Kansas City Chiefs. So we don't need to mess with that stuff. There have been other matchups that the Broncos, you came away saying, wow, the Broncos almost beat the Chiefs. And you go, okay, but did the Chiefs have this game circled on their calendar? Well, they do this year. So all the more reason why you need as many of your players available as you can get, especially Pat Surtain and J.K. Dobbins. You know, the Broncos are 8-2. I talked about this on Monday. The Broncos are 8-2 in large part because of Sean Payton's ability to take what the Broncos are, good, bad, or indifferent, who they're missing, and be able to adjust. He's done a very good job of that this year. But unfortunately, the reality of the NFL is very rarely do you go the course of the season without missing a significant piece to your roster. And you could talk about Dre Greenlaw, you could talk about Marvin Mims, Ben Powers. Surtain's a huge one. And in this particular matchup, J.K. Dobbins is a massive potential loss for this Broncos team. And it's going to put Sean Payton's ability to game plan, to adjust around whatever bad is going on with the Denver Broncos. It's going to test it more than in any other game this season so far. That's the thing about injuries too. Sometimes they happen at the worst time. And this is the worst time to be without J.K. Dobbins, in my opinion. If they are without him. Broncos, like Greenlaw, like Surtain, not putting him on the IR. And we got to, take this thing day by day. Sean Payton just spoke, and we'll see if he says anything. I doubt it. It's the worst timing. It really is. Because this is the game of the year. And J.K. Dobbins, you got him for this. And now he might not be available. 719-24-7, 13-13. How big of a loss do you believe J.K. Dobbins is? And does it ultimately tip the scales towards Kansas City on Sunday? I think a lot of people think so. I just saw a graphic from NFL.com, I think, and only Adam Rank, who always picks the Denver Broncos, is picking Denver this Sunday, despite the game being at Empower Field. I think Surtain not being available and the thought that J.K. Dobbins isn't either play a big role in that. 719-24-7, 13-13, more Drive Time Sports after this. Just got a couple days left to vote on our Extra Sports Athlete of the Week. Your 4 nominees, if you have not seen them yet: Reagan McCrae from Cheyenne Mountain, Cameron Tertullian from Mesa Ridge, Ellie Wagner from Evangel Christian Academy, and Oliver Horton of Coronado. To see what they did to merit nomination and to cast your vote, go to extrasports1300.com, and the winner will be revealed on Friday. It's our Extra Sports Athlete of the Week, sponsored by Blackjack Pizza and Salads. Congratulations to Brian, who picked up a 4-pack of tickets to see Trans-Siberian Orchestra at the Broadmoor World Arena on Sunday. I will have another chance for you to win next hour, and more chances the remainder of the week. So, as I always say, I'm not above bribing you to listen to this program, and I will continue to do so. Also, let's head to the text line. A few of your texts in response to the master class, that the latest that Nikola Jokic has, that put up last night. 35 points, and he missed 3 shots. But this has been November. This is it. Last night, November. That's what it's been for Nikola Jokic. And it's in large part because the guy can actually take a breather. Your thoughts at 719-247-1313. Ryan says, don't worry, Kendrick Perkins will still turn the 3 fewer minutes per game for Jokic into a stat padding narrative. Yeah. I'm sure he'll find a way, but I don't know if you've seen this lately. Kendrick Perkins should be mindful of what he says, given some of the hot water he recently found himself in. At least he's not endorsing a fraudulent solitaire app. So there's that. But yeah, Kendrick Perkins needs to be careful with what he says. Shouts to L. Duncan. By the way, this from the 719. Ryan, Joker is a unicorn, and I'm going to enjoy him as long as he plays. And adds, did you watch Westbrook play last night? I see why he gets good stats, but some of the shots are so ill-advised and takes the team out of the game. This is the Russell Westbrook experience. And this is why the Denver Nuggets told Russell Westbrook, we're not going to play you if you pick up your option. And that's a little bit cold, because there were times that Russell Westbrook was a positive for the Denver Nuggets, and let's not forget that. Let's appreciate the good that Russell Westbrook did with the Denver Nuggets, but our lasting image of him will probably be 2 ill-advised shots down the stretch of 2 very important basketball games last year. And it's just at 30, what is he, 37 years old now? It's who he is. And for a team like Sacramento, it's probably just fine. Probably is. Because what are they playing for? But he does that. I mean, he's a supremely talented player. Can't get around that. He's a Hall of Famer. But this is why he hasn't lasted very long in all of his stays after Oklahoma City, especially when he's playing for a team that has their eye on a championship. LA, the other LA. He's just fine in Washington. They loved him in Washington, and they probably like him in Sacramento. Nuggets can't do that. It's not just because they have the same first name. Russell Westbrook is kind of the basketball version of Russell Wilson. Their good is really good. But the wide range of potential outcomes is not something that a contending team can deal with. And every day that goes by, the lows get lower. Back to the Nuggets part of the conversation. Aaron says, what a time to be a fan in Colorado. We need to sit back and appreciate getting to watch both Jokic and McKinnon. These guys are doing things that we've never seen and are unlikely to see again here. So fun getting to follow both the Nuggets and the Avs right now. And you're absolutely spot on about that. We can't, and by the way, maybe it's a little self-serving given how much I defend this human being. But isn't that essentially what Carmelo Anthony said last night during the broadcast? We can't get tired of greatness. We can't, but we have to Aaron's, I think Aaron's doing it and I have to do it. And Ray's back at the Extra Sports 1300 studios. I think he'll say he has to do it. We have to remind ourselves to not take it for granted because it happens so often. Like I said, last night was terrific. It's been this way for 2 weeks in the month of November. He's done this every game in the month of November. And we move from day to day and we don't sit back and appreciate it. That's why platforms like this exist. So we could talk about and take a minute and appreciate what we're seeing. I would say Nikola Jokic is unbelievable, but it is believable because we see it all the time. But let's talk about Nathan McKinnon. Perfect segue. I had pretty much written off the idea that either Nathan McKinnon or Nikola Jokic was going to win MVP this year. It wasn't even in my head that either one of them would. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Two being there are other deserving candidates and voter fatigue. I think it certainly applies more for Jokic than it does Nathan McKinnon at this point. But I think they're both factors in it. I just didn't really I think so much of these seasons are about the championships or about the team goal, especially with the moves that both of these franchises have made. That's where most of the focus has been. But Nikola Jokic is putting up the best numbers for the best team outside of Oklahoma City in the NBA right now. And then you go across the hall at Ball Arena and you have the NHL leader in goals, assists, and add them up points. Nathan McKinnon. And he did it again last night. He didn't score a goal against the Ducks as the Avs won 4-1, but he assisted on a goal. And I believe he assisted on the most important goal of the night, which was finally, at long last, Gabriel Landeskog scoring his first regular season goal in 3 years. Here's the Avs captain on the relief of scoring that goal last night. Yeah, and we'll see if this gets Gabriel Landeskog rolling a little bit. You know how important that second line is, and that second line has been dealt a blow because Valeri Nichushkin got hurt last night. Jared Bednar says he's going to be out for some time. They don't know how long yet because he's getting imaging done. But not to, rain on the parade of the Colorado Avalanche and the win last night and the way they've been playing, but that's a significant loss. And I think that's the differentiator with the Colorado Avalanche is that second line. They're the force multiplier. If that second line can be one of the most productive second lines in hockey, that could push the Avs over the top to win a Stanley Cup. Because I think in many ways, the last time they won a title, it was their second line. But, juxtaposing this to the Denver Broncos with dealing with the injury to J.K. Dobbins, look, if Valeri Nichushkin is going to be out a month at this point in the season, it's a tough blow, no doubt about it. But you look at the bigger picture and say he should be back in time for when they really need him. But hopefully that last night gets Gabriel Landeskog going a little bit. I like the second line, the way they've played, being process oriented. I think it looks good. The results haven't always been there. And finally, Gabriel Landeskog got on the board last night. But that's a significant win for the Colorado Avalanche in that these were the two highest scoring teams in hockey coming into the game. Yeah, the Anaheim Ducks. So big is it big in terms of consequence? No, but just I thought what last night was, aside from Gabriel Landeskog getting that goal, I think it's just the Avs showing this young and upstart Anaheim team, like, no, this is the way you do it. And you look at some of the underlying metrics, the Avs rank first in all of them. And the Ducks, maybe you could say they're a bit fortunate looking at some of those, that they're one of the highest scoring teams in the NHL, but they're good. Like, Quenneville's got them pointing in the right direction. But the significance of that game was last night, I just think, was the Avs going like, yeah, you're a nice story, but, you got a little ways to go till you get to our level. And I know one goal was an empty netter, but a 4-1 win kind of sends that message. And it could have been worse. I think Dostal, their Anaheim's goalie, he's really good. Anaheim's a good team. I think it's a crowded West, so I don't know, if the Ducks are going to be in the playoffs, you got to take one team out, maybe in LA, but I think that was the storyline. The significance is probably not the right word. The storyline of last night was this young, upstart, high-powered team in the Ducks going up against a team that's been one of the highest-powered teams in the NHL for years. It was a measuring stick for Anaheim, and they didn't quite measure up. Thanks in large part, by the way, to Scott Wedgwood. Want to have a conversation about Scott Wedgwood during this show, which still has another hour in it. 719-247-1313. Back after this. Welcome in hour 2 on this Wednesday. Appreciate you tuning in, however you might be doing it, and especially those who are watching the show on our social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at XTRA Sports 1300. Go ahead while you're there, like, subscribe, drop a comment, all the fun things we can do on social media. And please tell your friends. We thrive on word of mouth advertising in this business. And if you would like to interact, the comment dropping would be a great way to do it. You could also text into the show at 719-247-1313. Sean Payton speaking just a little bit ago, and quite mum on what's going on with J.K. Dobbins, as you might expect. He said no decision has been made about J.K. Dobbins and IR yet. But look, the rest of the season is the rest of the season, right? It's about Sunday. If J.K. Dobbins is missing for longer than just the Kansas City game, then we'll broach that subject when we get there. This is a watershed moment. This is the game of the year. What lies ahead for the Denver Broncos matters a little less right now. So the IR decision, and look, they did this with Dre Greenlaw. They did it with Pat Surtain. When you're talking about players of this significance, sure, you could read into it a little bit like it's not a catastrophic injury. And I think you could say that about J.K. Dobbins if he doesn't get put on IR. You could say that, so that would be good news. But we know they're going to hold out hope, and why shouldn't they? These are players that are too consequential to the Broncos' success to not leave open the even remote possibility they could play on a week-to-week basis. So J.K. Dobbins' long-term prognosis is during this week not nearly as important as his availability this Sunday. Sean Payne did also say that R.J. Harvey would have a bigger role. And look, that would be probably the case even if J.K. Dobbins plays, right? Because even if he plays, he's going to be somewhat hampered. More of a chance for R.J. Harvey to step up. Now, I think to have the best of both worlds, see a little bit more Harvey, a little bigger role for him while still having Dobbins being the lead back. Let's not forget who we're dealing with here when it comes to J.K. Dobbins. He's a player that his history would tell you when he gets hurt, he stays hurt. And when he gets hurt, he's out. My gut says he's not available on Sunday. So we're not talking about R.J. Harvey having a bigger role. We're talking about him having the role in the Broncos backfield. That's my thought. I think everything's pointing that J.K. Dobbins isn't going to play on Sunday. But there is some good Broncos injury news. Marvin Mims was a full participant in practice today. And that's somebody that you can use to pick up some of the slack. Marvin Mims, there's a sweet spot that you live in with Marvin Mims. He's not a high volume player, so you got to stay within that. But he's certainly someone that can add some dynamism to the run game. You can use him out of the backfield. So it's not going to be just, hey, R.J. Harvey, you're going to be the lead back and you're going to get every touch that we would give J.K. Dobbins. That's not going to be the case. But he's going to have a greatly increased workload. and maybe a little bit more Marvin Mims. And I know this isn't going to be welcome to many people given the conversation right now surrounding the Broncos quarterback, but it probably will be more Bo Nix. And you're saying, well, Bo Nix running the ball, that's not a bad thing. I would agree with you. I'm not talking about Bo Nix running the ball more because that ship is, I think it's sailed. I don't know. I'll tell you what. I'll give it one more game. I'll give it this game. Given the injury to Dobbins and everything, the importance of this game, I'll leave it for Monday. If Sean Payton doesn't run Bo Nix more on Sunday, then he really never is going to, is he? Because this is one of those pull out all the stops, all hands on deck, do whatever you got to do. And it plays into that first through third quarter Denver Broncos phenomenon that's going on. They should have that fourth quarter mentality for all four quarters against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'll hold out for one more week. So if it's RJ Harvey seeing the biggest increase in his workload, maybe a couple more touches for Mims, maybe some more designed runs for Bo Nix, or it doesn't even have to be designed runs. Like, that's the thing here. Can Sean Payton just have a conversation with Bo Nix to say, Bo, it's okay if you take off and run? Like, I think that's all anybody is asking for. We're not asking for Sean Payton to, tailor his offense around running Bo Nix. But the guy looks in the Dallas game, I think, is a great example of this. Or Houston, too. It just looks like he starts to go, and then he hears like Sean Payton in his ear or in his head. Because I don't think it's okay. I don't think Sean Payton's allowed to be in Bo Nix's ear while the play is going on. But in his head, I think he hears Sean Payton. Oh, can't take a sack here. Can't risk it. Sean Payton just needs to put his hand on Bo Nix's shoulder and says, for this, you know what? It's okay if you run. It's okay. If you see a lane, take it. It's not necessarily about designed quarterback runs. Just give him the freedom, empower him to take off if he sees fit. So it's going to be a little bit, the Broncos are going to have to cobble it together a little bit. And it will be a little bit more from everybody. A little bit more RJ Harvey, probably a little bit more Bidet, a little bit more Marvin Mims, hopefully a little bit more Bo Nix. And then they try to approximate the loss of J.K. Dobbins. But here's the other part of this, and it's I talked about on Monday that Bo Nix right now is on a downward trend. I don't know that I can, from a numbers standpoint or even from an eyeball test standpoint, say definitively that Bo Nix is regressing from last year. Not when you take the season in its totality. But he is on a downward trajectory the last month. And the Dallas game kind of warps it. But take out the Dallas game and understand that for what it is, an outlier, and look at these 4 games. His numbers are going down. His passing numbers. So he's on a downward trend as the Broncos are going into the biggest game of the year, which is not ideal. And maybe one has to do with the other here. But have you looked at Courtland Sutton's targets lately? They're going down too. And And like I said, one could begat the other, right? If Bo Nix's passing numbers are down, if he's playing worse and worse over these past 4 games, not including Dallas, then it would be in some ways understandable that Courtland Sutton's numbers are going down. But at the same time, should they? If Bo Nix's numbers are going down, okay. But should Courtland Sutton's numbers be going down? I don't think that they should be. Because he's the one guy in that receiving core who should be immune to this. Like, I could see if Troy Franklin's numbers are going down, or especially like a Pat Bryant, seeing their targets decrease. Courtland Sutton's numbers should be regression proof. Because this is the guy that Bo Nix, when the chips are down, he's looking Courtland Sutton's way. To the detriment of the Denver Broncos at times this year, by the way. But he had 10 targets against the Giants, went down to 6 against Dallas, 6 against Houston, and 4 against Vegas. I can't believe I'm saying this, and this just proves how weird this Broncos offense has been. They got to throw the ball to Sutton more. A month ago, I believe I was saying they need to throw to him less. That there was a correlation between Bo Nix's interceptions and him trying to force the ball into Courtland Sutton. Now we've kind of gone the other way. And it's like, he's your number one receiver. Like, could it be, the Houston game with Derek Stingley? Maybe. But we're talking about the Giants, we're talking about the Cowboys, and we're talking about the Raiders here. Courtland Sutton's numbers should not be going down. His targets should not be going down. Everybody else's can, with Bo Nix regressing or Bo Nix declining, or however you want to phrase it. Courtland Sutton's numbers shouldn't be. So how about in a game like this, you look Courtland Sutton's way? If you're Sean Payton, you devise ways to get Courtland Sutton free. You need your number one receiver against the Chiefs. And he's been less and less a part of the proceedings over the last month, which is also a trend that the Broncos need to reverse. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on Broncos Chiefs. We'll have more Drive Time Sports coming up in just a moment. Hang on, Ray. Got to do something real quick. Got to tell you about Low T Center. Guys, let's be honest. How long have you been feeling tired, unfocused, or just not like yourself? You keep putting it off, thinking it's just part of getting older. But what if it's not? What if it's your testosterone level? Synergenics and Low T Center make it easy for you to find out with a free TRT test. That's right. It's free. Just walk in before 10 a.m. or better yet, book ahead. We operate in a society where we create reservations for things. This should be no different. FixMyLowT.com is where you could go to do that. The test is quick, it's painless, and you get results back in about 20 minutes. No waiting days like you will at other places. And once you know your level, you can finally take control of your energy, your focus, and your drive. Don't wait until things get worse. Don't keep wondering. Go get answers. Go get your levels checked at FixMyLowT.com or just walk into a Synergenics Low T Center before 10 a.m. Synergenics and Low T Center. You'll wish you had started sooner. Now hit it, Ray. How about another chance for you to win 4 tickets to see Trans-Siberian Orchestra at the Broadmoor World Arena this Sunday night? It will not conflict with the Kansas City-Denver game. It will be a 7:30 show. If you would like to go, be the 13th texter to text TSO and your name to 719-247 1313. Speaking of that text line, Brett says, I think they should put Cortland Sutton in the slot and just let the fast guys on the outside run. This is just one man's opinion, but it's usually correct. They got to do something. And Bo Nix has got to look his way. I really cannot believe that we're having this conversation about Cortland Sutton. He'd be the last guy on this Broncos team that I'd be sitting here talking about how the Broncos need to look his way. They need it. They need to do it. Put him in the slot. I don't care. You got to do something. Can't have... If we just follow the downward trajectory, 2 or 3 targets against Kansas City for Cortland Sutton, that would be... And that's just targets. It's been 10 targets to 6 targets to 6 targets to 4 targets. And look, I've said this about Cortland Sutton, and it's part of the reason why I think he's not in that upper echelon with the Chases and the Jeffersons of the world. He can disappear, but it's weird to see him fade out for a month straight, and it can't happen against Kansas City on Sunday. So the Broncos, in addition to everything else, they're trying to figure out how to get Cortland Sutton the ball. This coming in from Ryan regarding the Colorado Avalanche winning last night again with Scott Wedgwood in goal, and that is a choice. This is not based on the schedule and a rotation. Jared Bednar, given that the Avalanche were playing the upstart Ducks, chose Scott Wedgwood. Thus, the first game where you start to go, okay, where is this leading here? If Scott Wedgwood is chosen for a game like last night. Ryan says, if Wedgwood remains our starter, I don't see how we could keep him because we can't pay him as a starter next year. He will easily get more money elsewhere. And I agree with you. And that kind of screws up the whole plan here in the goaltending room for the Avalanche. But I think there's a more immediate thing. As well as Scott Wedgwood has played, if the Avalanche are going to win the Stanley Cup, they're going to do it with Mackenzie Blackwood in goal. I don't think they're going to win if Scott Wedgwood remains their starter. And look, he's been good. I'm not, credit to him. There's a number one goalie here, and his name is Mackenzie Blackwood, and he needs to play like it. And he has been shaky in his return, and clearly Jared Bednar has more confidence in Scott Wedgwood. I know it's supposed to be this, 1A, 1B thing, but 1A still matters. Right? And I think if there's the goalie that has to give the Avalanche their best chance of winning a Stanley Cup is Mackenzie Blackwood. I still believe that. But it's early. Mackenzie Blackwood just came back, but I think this is the first moment where you go, okay, wait a minute. What's the pecking order with the Colorado Avalanche? It's something to monitor moving forward. But you're right. I mean, I think the way he's playing, unless he falls off a cliff in terms of his play over the next few weeks, Ryan, I think that's going to happen anyway. I think Scott Wedgwood's probably gone. There's such a dearth of goaltending talent. You don't think a team is willing to pay a little bit of a premium to get someone like Scott Wedgwood in? And look, how many teams would Scott Wedgwood start for in the NHL? So even if it ends up falling back into place and Mackenzie Blackwood is 1A and he's the guy in goal if the Avs are going to win a Stanley Cup, you're still going to have teams sniffing around at Scott Wedgwood and going, hey, he's an upgrade from what we got. I think Scott Wedgwood's days in Colorado are numbered regardless. But I think it's still got to be Mackenzie Blackwood. I think he's got to be the guy. I think he's more talented. But the Avs got to get him back going. And he just came back. But last night was interesting. Against an upstart team, high-scoring team, Jared Bednar went, I'll go with Scott Wedgwood. Didn't think that game last night was worth furthering Mackenzie Blackwood's reintegration into this team. So I think that's significant and something to watch, certainly moving forward. I think to dovetail off of that, I promised somebody a few weeks ago, I said, let's give Cam Johnson 10 games. I'll hold Mackenzie Blackwood to the same standard. Give him 10 starts. If after 10 starts he don't look good, then we really need to have a conversation about this, who the Avs number one goalie is. But we're at that point with Cam Johnson. And Cam Johnson last night for the Nuggets, once again, not from an offensive standpoint. And that from an offensive standpoint, not great. From a defensive standpoint, that's what you have to keep in mind here. The Nuggets have one of the best defenses right now in the NBA, and Cam Johnson is a big part of that. And that's why we're not going down the road of having a conversation about, is there a better fit for the starting five than Cam Johnson? There isn't. We're not having that conversation because Cam Johnson is a reason why the Denver Nuggets defense has been so good. But offensively, it's still not great for Cam Johnson. And Ray and I were discussing this shortly before the show started. And Jamal Crawford brought this up because I think the reason is twofold. And I think the second of the two reasons I'm going to bring up is the bigger reason. But Jamal Crawford talked about this last night on the Peacock broadcast. Terry Gannon asked him if there was more pressure on a player playing with Nikola Jokic because of the way he facilitates, because of how good he is and how he puts the passes on a silver platter. And Jamal Crawford, who's a great shooter in his own right, was like, yeah, there is. Because there's no excuses. There's no excuse to miss shots when Nikola Jokic is finding you at the perfect time, when you're open and putting it right in that pocket that they talk about. And Cam Johnson is no different. It's not like the passes he's receiving from Nikola Jokic aren't good passes. So I think there is some of that, but I don't want to put too much into that part because the guy did play for a team that went to the NBA Finals. But I think the role he had in Phoenix and subsequently the role he had in Brooklyn is more the reason why Cam Johnson hasn't figured it out yet offensively. This is a very small box that you are being put in offensively. Michael Porter used to live in that box. And you see what Michael Porter is right now. I don't think that Michael Porter has been happier in his entire life than he is right now. That guy has all the freedom to take as many shots as he wants, to say whatever he wants on podcasts. He is free. He is out of the box in more ways than one, because a lot of Michael Porter's thoughts are very outside the box and outside reality sometimes as well. But it's an extremely different role for Cam Johnson, and he was a bigger part. You think of the Phoenix team he played with, it was Ayton, and he's a bum, but he was a bigger part of the Phoenix team, I suppose. And then you had Devin Booker. It was his team, no doubt about that. But then you had Chris Paul, who is not a scorer. So Cam Johnson was asked to do more offensively with that Phoenix team than he is now. And he's being asked to do a whole heck of a lot less with the Nuggets than he is Brooklyn. And you got to pick your spots, because you're not Nikola Jokic, you're not Jamal Murray, you're not even Aaron Gordon. And on some nights, you're not even Christian Brown. And I think Cam Johnson is a better player than Christian Brown. But what I'm saying is there are some nights where it's Christian Brown. Right? He's making those backdoor cuts to the basket, and Nikola Jokic is finding him. So it's like we talked about the Avs goaltending 1A, 1B. The Nuggets have like option 4A and 4B. Jokic is option 1, Murray's option 2, Gordon's option 3. And then it just kind of depends. And I think that Cam Johnson is having a really difficult time with this. But I will say, now that we've crossed this 10-game threshold, last night was game 10 for the Denver Nuggets, I think it's taking longer than I expected it to. When I responded to a texter that said, what about Cam Johnson? I said, let's give it 10 games, thinking that we would easily be talking about a great Cam Johnson game offensively before 10 games. So it absolutely is taking, I got to imagine at this point it's mental. Fitting into this role is becoming a thing in the head of Cam Johnson. That's the only conclusion that I can draw. Because it's been 10 games. And it's not better. Like, there aren't even signs from Cam Johnson on the offensive end. Last night, 2 of 6 from the field. He missed all 3 3-pointers that he took. He had 5 points. Jokic had 35. Murray had 23. Gordon had 17. Brown had 12. You even had Bruce Brown and Jonas Valanciunas off the bench with double figures. And Cam Johnson has 5? It's got to be a mental thing with him at this point. Like, I gave him some time. I know it's difficult. It's a different role. I think he's thinking about it. I think that's what's going on. But let's not, forget. Let's keep in mind, Cam Johnson has been brilliant on the defensive end of the floor. Brilliant. And a big reason why the Nuggets are where they are on the defensive side of the ball, which is something that, and look, the bigger question here is, can the Nuggets live with it? Can they live with a guy that doesn't provide the offensive upside of Michael Porter Jr., but has more defensive upside? Yeah, I think they can. It's not what they were expecting. And it's got to be better than it has been with Cam Johnson to this point. It has to be better. But if we're talking about Cam Johnson being, I don't know, Contavious Caldwell-Pope type with everything else that's going on with the Denver Nuggets, with Aaron Gordon, with Jamal Murray, with this bench unit, with Nikola Jokic playing the way, to go back to the beginning of the show, talking about, Nikola Jokic playing at this incredibly high level, even by his standards, with Cam Johnson locking dudes down on the defensive end. Yeah, I think that the Nuggets can live with it. But I think they're hoping they don't have to. And there are 72 more games for Cam Johnson. So all hope is not lost. But I will admit, I thought it would be sooner than this for Cam Johnson fitting in, because he's such a good fit offensively. Right? He fits in so well. That's part of it. That's kind of what you were sacrificing by trading Michael Porter, is that you wouldn't have maybe in totality a better player in Cam Johnson, but he was such a better fit. He's got to be in his own head about all of this. That's the conclusion that I'm drawing here. 719-24/7-1313. More Drive Time Sports after this. Congratulations to Joel, who scored a 4-pack of tickets to see Trans-Siberian Orchestra on Sunday. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for more chances to win on that. Couple of texts coming in. One from Brett says Michael Porter Jr. did live in a box. He did also, as I recall, live in your basement for a period of time. Just because we have new people joining the audience. That is what Brett says, because he, rather than saying I'm a Michael Porter Jr. apologist, he says that he lives in my basement. He does not. Just in case, like, people just tuning in for the first time are like, wait, what? Michael Porter Jr. did not at any time live in my basement. Adds he has a different coach, so does Cam Johnson, a defensive shutdown player in the NFL's Pat Surtain. Can Cam Johnson be the shutdown defender in the NBA? Asking for a friend. I think, and that's why I said, like, if Cam Johnson, with everything else that's going on with the Denver Nuggets right now, right? Aaron Gordon playing at his level, Jamal Murray, the bench, yada, 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 yada. If Cam Johnson becomes the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope of this team, I think that the Nuggets can live with it. Can he be a shutdown? I don't know that Cam Johnson is a shutdown defensive player. But he could be very good, and he has been. And that's what you can't forget if you're a Nuggets fan, that Cam Johnson is contributing a lot on the defensive end of the floor. This coming in from the 719. I'm not sold on the Cam Johnson pickup. He's still not meshing with the team. But look, and let's take it another step further. Because offensively, you're absolutely right. But let's take it a step further here and let's not forget what the move was about. The trade of Michael Porter was about Jonas Valanciunas and Bruce Brown and Tim Hardaway Jr. The main reason for moving Michael Porter was to gain financial flexibility. And with that flexibility, the Denver Nuggets have put together the best second unit in more depth than Nikola Jokic has ever had. So that was probably the biggest reason for the deal. It was just, and that was when the trade went down, that was my initial reaction to it. Like, oh, look at all the money they're going to open up, right? Because the Tim Hardaway thing and the Jonas Valanciunas thing happened almost immediately. Or was it, Ray, remind me, it was Bruce Brown and Jonas Valanciunas first. Yeah, and then Tim Hardaway came later. Okay, so Bruce Brown was the first. Thank you. But still, the Denver Nuggets were able to immediately open up cap space to go out and, at the time, get Bruce Brown. And then they went out and showed us what else they had up their sleeve. So does Cam Johnson need to fit with this team? Yes. But let's not forget the bigger picture here, which is the depth, the flexibility, and the depth that the Denver Nuggets now have because of that trade. So when we're judging, it's like the Mikko Rantanen deal, right? The Avs opened up. It's not just, hey, Natchez or does Natchez fit with the team, which he clearly does. But they were able to get Brock Nelson. They were able to, get some depth pieces. They got Gavin Brindley, who just signed an extension yesterday, by the way. So when we judge ultimately whether the Porter for Cam Johnson deal was a success, let's keep that in mind, that it was also about opening up cap flexibility without trading the big three, if you will, in Murray, Gordon, and Jokic. This coming in from the same texture. Christian Brown reminds me of Hammy from the movie Over the Hedge. His energy never stops. I have somebody here. Hammy from Over the Hedge. Hello? You're not paying attention to me. Yeah. Hammy from Over the Hedge. Lots of energy. Okay. I'm getting a nod from one of my children. And that's what I have to do. I have to throw pens at them to get them to pay attention. You empathize with me, right? You identify. Yeah, Christian Brown. Love his energy. I don't know what the ceiling is as a player from a skill perspective, but he does play with constant energy. And tonight he will play with constant energy in the Rainbow Skyline jerseys as the Nuggets take on the LA Clippers in a game you can hear on Extra Sports 1300. You won't be able to see them in the jerseys, but now that I've told you that's what they'll be wearing. I was telling this to Ray during the break. I want the Rainbow Skyline on the white jerseys or blue. I just want the straight throwbacks. That's what I want. But in fairness, putting Jalen Pickett and Julian Strawther as the two guys on the graphic, like, guess what jerseys we're wearing? The players you put in the jerseys matter if you're trying to sell them. And this is not a new look from the Nuggets. They've had this before. But if you want me to be on board, you got to put Jokic in it. It's got to be Aaron Gordon. It can't be Julian Strawther and Jalen Pickett because it's not going to sell me on it. But I'm telling, I want the white jerseys with the rainbow skyline, not the black jerseys with the rainbow skyline. But that's what they'll be wearing tonight against the Clippers. Another late night, not as late as last night, but 8:30 tip, which means 8:45. It's like, oh, our plane's going to be taking off at 8:30. No, it's not. It's taking off at close to 8:50 or 8:55. I know you. I just experienced this. But that'll be tonight, Nuggets and Clippers here on Extra Sports 1300. Before I go, one item of business I want to take care of. Look, I get it. I understand life's busy. You've got work, you got family, million things pulling you in every different direction. That's why Synergenics and Low T Center make it easy to take care of your health. They've got clinics all over town. You could choose in-clinic care or even at-home treatment. But it all has to start with the free TRT test. Quick, simple, results in about 20 minutes thanks to their on-site labs. No waiting days like other places because that adds to it, right? You're not spurred to action if you got to hurry up and wait. With Low T Center, no. 20 minutes, you'll get your results back. And with their mobile app, you can do telehealth visits, get medication reminders, and even watch video tutorials to stay on track. It's care that truly fits your life. So if you've been putting off checking your testosterone levels, now is the time. Walk in before 10 a.m. to Low T Center, or you could book ahead at fixmylowt.com. That's fixmylowt.com. Synergenics and Low T Center, convenient, fast, and built for guys like you. That'll be it for today. My thanks to Ray Dominguez for producing the show again today. Did a phenomenal job. And thank you for listening. Back in studio tomorrow at 3 here on Extra Sports 1300.